Bon dia, Eva Corja. Hi, everyone. Eimear Burke here. Welcome to another Fireside Chat. And this is Fireside Chat 160. And as is customary, I begin these chats with a prayer for peace. Gamara Shiakon ar fud na crunne. Gamara Shiakon in our jaili agus in our jirha. Ganari lin len ar cuid garmacha. Gamij buichas jeev, je chuvdacha, is spirit chuvdacha. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities. For peace, as the fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, and our swords be beaten into plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the holy mountain. With thanks to John O'Donoghue. So you're all very, very welcome. Let me see where you're all from. Howdy from Oklahoma, from Kiev, my goodness. A brisk Calgary. Well, it's raining outside and a bit chilly. I didn't expect it. It was nice today. Ardnamurchan, hello, Belgium, Hertfordshire. Sunny Auckland, I'm impressed that you're up so early. New York, wonderful. High River, Canada, West Cornwall, Penzance. Hi, Liz from Wyoming, Utah, Belfast. Wow. So just lovely to see you all here. Ulster, Ontario as well. Happy Hunter's full moon. Actually, yes, it is the full moon tonight, isn't it? New Brunswick in Canada. Wonderful. So you can see my harp is not in the background. I'm not at home. So my guest, this is the first time we've ever done this since my second time. This is the first time I've had a repeat guest. So I'm in Italy, in Tuscany, and here to do some writing. So we're going to have a side-by-side fireside chat. And I'd like to welcome, I'm in an undisclosed, Sean, it's disclosed. I can't tell you the exact place. I'm not going to give you the coordinates, but it's in Italy. And I'm with OBOD member Marcus Manzer. So say hello to everybody.
Hello to everybody. Hi.
So, and Kevin from Gloucester, the home of the Dubuni, and great. I'm amazed people from Hawaii. Brilliant. So Jane says, ciao, Marcus. Wonderful.
Hi, Jane.
So this is one of my favorite places to be. I'm here to do a little bit of writing, and it's a magical place. So I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to let Marcus talk about where he lives. It's an interesting place. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, what's to say? It's my little paradise and my home, my chosen home, where I came 30 years ago, and I'm very connected. It's now, after all this time, to this place and all its spirits and forest and the earth and the winds and the rain. And I love it here. And it's a pleasure every day to feel where we are here in the hills, and now we can talk about a little bit more the particular things.
I'm curious because yes, indeed we can, because you're here about 30 years, and this is in now a village, or what it was a village. I don't know how old the village was, but I think your house was about 400 years old, or parts of it anyway. Yes. So what brought you here to this place?
Yes, it was a little bit that I was looking for a place. Didn't want to stay where I was growing up, and that was in Germany, in the west of Germany near Cologne, in a very densely populated area. And it was always my dream to be in nature and doing my vegetables and my fruit and living as close as possible to nature. And I looked all over Europe, really, but I couldn't find anywhere. And then I gave up, really, and it was only by accident that when we went on our honeymoon journey, it's so classic. I mean, that we went to Tuscany, and I never wanted to go to Italy. I haven't looked in Italy. I never wanted to go to Italy because it was such a fashion at that time in the 80s, 90s. Everybody was going to Italy to live, and not everybody, but a lot of people in my age. And so that was the last place I was looking in. And but in this holiday, we found this little hamlet in the forest where they tried to create an eco-village, and we walked there. I can remember that like it was yesterday. My son was 3.5 years old, and walked there from the place where we stayed. It was about 7 kilometers. It wasn't far, but if somebody knows how the Tuscan hills are, then they know that you can easily get lost. And one path is finishing, there are only brambles, and you have to go around, and nothing is on the map, and then Google Maps wasn't existing at that time. And so it took us the whole day to arrive. And so we stayed there also for the night. And I already from the hills, from the top, I knew that was the place I was searching for. And so then it was very quick. Within 2 months, I bought a ruin here and to build it up and to restore it and doing the land and starting to create and to live in this area.
Oh, wonderful. Just a shout out to Alexander. Mahu asach the cuid gailge. So scríobh sé cén ché bhfuil mé, which táid go maith is even lum an do chuid gailge eáil on screen. Anyway, Liz would love to know more about the Eco Village.
Yes, we slowly in about maybe 10 years' time were finding people, restoring the houses, and we had in the beginning very strict regulations. What was eco, no? Because you can have different opinions about it. And people were coming from all over Italy, from all over Europe, were really mixed. So even from the culture, we had a lot of differences, and somebody was taking it very serious, the next one much less, and so there were lots of discussions also. How to do, what is the regulation? We changed them lots of times. But I have to say that still, maybe 80% of the people are still here, no? And so
that's an achievement.
In a way, it worked. And we didn't had too much in community. The house and the land was private, and then we had communal structures. I have still communal structures, and I think this was a little bit also the secret of that it worked. And
What do you think the secret is? Because sometimes people the idea of community is a wonderful idea, and we talk about our OBOG community, but we all live in our separate homes, and those who live in very small, narrow-minded communities can find that really, really difficult. So there are always the challenges as well as the upsides to communities, and often those newly created communities based around spirituality or something, often they break down because of say conflicts around differences in values or values change or whatever it is. So what do you think, what's the secret to that 80% success rate? And I think it might tie in, Sean has a question, how do you see the specific model? Is it repeatable in other places? So what was the secret to this community surviving? 80% is an incredible success rate.
yes, I think it is. In our case, it was the liberty, that we were free to live our own life.
Yeah.
And not too much ruled by regulations, and we didn't have a common spirituality. There were all the different kinds of spiritualities living here, and we were quite interested. We were alternative people, let's say.
Okay.
So we were interested in the other spirituality. We wanted to know more about them, and we were discussing it. And but there were not a dogma. This one is better than the other one, and was quite open, everything. The only thing what was in the beginning a problem was vegetarian or not vegetarian. And that I can remember for years, evenings of discussions, and in the end, we said, no, animals are part of the ecosystem and part of us. We are animals, and we want to live together with animals.
Yeah, Pat makes the comment, just enough community, but no conformism. Nice. And I think it's around, I think the secret, and this is one of the secrets, not the secrets, one of the key, maybe successes of OBOD is our diversity. And
Yes.
when you allow diversity and differences of views, we share common values, but we don't share all the same values, but we have enough common values for our organization, our order to function very, very well. And I think if you have a community where that allows that diversity, allows differences of views, whether it's meat, not meat, or whatever it is, that it's not based on dogma and rigid rules and regulations, then that keeps people, because then we all want to be with people who are like us, and we also need to be different from the people who are like us, if that makes sense. A bit of a paradox there. So when you can find that, then I think it's a good recipe for actually success.
Yes. And the common level was like ecology, to be as less damaging the environment with our being as possible. And this was continuous research also, and we were sharing information, sharing experiences, and helping each other, rebuilding the houses, and that was so in a way the common red line of all of us.
So I think Sean has a question. What did you discover about yourself that you didn't know before engaging with the village and or the lifestyle?
Lot. So I studied biology, and so I'm a head person, or was a head person, and I didn't know how to use my hands really.
Didn't you?
No.
I thought you were born that way. Okay. He's very talented.
No, I mean, I did a little bit. I was helping my mom in the garden or things like that. But then from this to rebuild a house, to be a builder, to do woodwork, to do gardening, to plant trees, to recultivate land, and Now I have a chestnut forest, an olive forest, olive grove. I have fruit trees and growing vegetables, and so all of this I learned here, and I
Wow.
knew always a little bit that what I want I can do. It's a bit arrogant, but it is doing learning by doing. And then slowly, we had also a lot of people which had more experience, so we could share, we could learn from each other. And I was very lucky to have also friends, Italian friends from the area, which were teaching me about the local activities, local cultures, and local things to do. I was learning making ladders from a person, or how to cultivate chestnuts, or to do graftings on fruit trees, or all of this I learned here from other people, which they showed it to me, and I learned it from them.
I just have to put in here, this is an amazing place. I've seen photographs of this place in the 1920s and the general area, which was all agriculture. And then for various reasons, people moved. But I imagine the life was very, very hard. People either, younger people moved away and then the older people died. Anyway, there was a migration into the urban areas. And what has happened is, this is now, it's what you wouldn't call it mountains, hills, big hills. There'll probably be mountains in Ireland, but in Italy, no. And they're full of trees, and they've got wolves, and they've got deer, and they've got wild boar. And it's a beautiful ecosystem now that just the land regenerated itself. And I find that fascinating. And then just down the hill is Marcus's olive grove. And that is just fascinating. And Jane mentioned your goats, but actually you've no goats now, because I know you can tell that story.
I don't have goats anymore because of the wolf, really. I had quite a little herd of goats and made cheese and got milk, and because it was so easy to digest goat's milk. And I loved them. I ate also the meat. I sold the little goats to restaurants and friends and people in the area. But then one day in one night, the wolf came and killed 13 of the 14. And one was survived because it jumped out of the fence, and it got eaten the next day after I put it in a very high fence, 2 meters high, and very close to the house. And I just saw with my torch in the evening that the wolf was jumping out of the fence, and the last goat was dead. I was really, really sad because I was fond of them. They were like part of the family, and I could also accept it then in a certain way because I liked the wolf. I like it still. The wolf, it is part of the ecosystem here. And so I decided to not have them anymore because I didn't want to keep them in the stable all the time. And that would, or getting big dogs, which could protect them. And there's not only one dog is necessary, but 2 or 3 at least. And so that is the goat story.
I think it's really hard. And this is the thing about nature. I remember years ago, I think it was about 2008, we had sparrowhawks nesting in a ruined tower on the land. I'm so excited about having sparrowhawks. Oh, this is just wonderful. We also had nesting robins. I was delighted about the nesting robins. And then one day I noticed in a little courtyard outside the door, the fledglings, and they were struggling and they were trying to fly. And I thought, where are the parents? And then it dawned on us that both the parents had been killed by the sparrowhawks. And then they too, the babies died. And it's like, oh no. And it's like, well, nature is what nature does. And that real challenge about accepting it and And when I've heard I've seen wolf. I've never seen any wolves up here, but I've seen wolf footprints on when I'm walking up the hill, and we've heard them sitting out on the terrazza. Heard the wolves, it was a few years ago, chasing deer. And I find that exciting. And then the wild boar come in, and then they dig up your garden, and that's upsetting. And but then you have that wildness, and it's just incredible to.
It's challenging, and I need always to adapt and to change and to see, there I have to learn and there I have to do something different. And so this is also a process which is affecting myself and my inner self also, because then it goes into me, what's about me changing, and how can I develop in me. And so it is always like mirroring also to the inside.
Yes. Wow. There's Kelly says, I saw a fox on the side of the road yesterday and did not expect to cry so hard. You know, I understand that reaction. Is that I see, we saw a kingfisher the other day, and we've been talking about, because this guy is a bird nerd. And he recognizes bird call and things like that. And we were talking about having, I don't rarely see, you just see a kingfisher out of the corner of your eye. I've seen one in Africa. It's not like not the beautiful colored bird that we have in Europe. And then we're by the sea, and he said, there's one. And I got to see with the beautiful peacock or kingfisher blue and the orange, and it's landed on a fence post for a few minutes. I was so excited. And then it's like I get that huge emotional rush. Oh my goodness, I've seen something that I only ever catch a little glimpse of. And Pat says nature is not fluffy, but it's easier to accept, in my case, chickens lost to a fox than a beloved pet hit by a car. There's no brainer there, Pat. Absolutely. There's a question. Did you want to say something to that? I know Sean has nothing.
No, only the chicken story came into my mind.
Go on,
because
I
had also chickens, of course, and for a long time. And I was also there. I was fighting against nature to protect them against fox. And that was in the beginning the main thing. And I even caught a fox because he was so much going behind my chickens that I put a trap there and put a piece of the half-eaten chicken in it. And I caught him. And I brought him kilometers away and freed him again. And some days later, I think it was the same one. He just looked around the corner of the house. And while we were sitting all on the terrace and eating lunch,
he comes back.
He was back.
God.
And then after a while, it got better with the foxes. But then another animal came in. It's this long, thin, I don't know how you call it. It's not a marten. It's much smaller. It's weasel. But very thin, small weasel, which are eating mice and going into the holes of the mice.
A ferret.
Yeah, I don't know the English name for it.
Yeah.
And they can go through so little holes, and you can't protect the chicken for that. You can't, and they just kill them by biting their throat, and you find them dead in the stable, and they can't carry them away. They're not even eating them. So I gave up on chicken.
That's so because mink do that. Mink they were originally farmed in Ireland, as they've been farmed many places, and then they escaped, and they become really, really they're so destructive. They get into a hen house, they kill everything around them, and they don't even eat it for food. So somebody suggests stoat. It could be any of those. They're
stoat, yeah. Stoat is the name, yeah.
So John says, that's John King of an Arden American, we feed the birds, including the sparrowhawk and the buzzard. I've seen that we were talking about this, an aquarium I think it was in the Bronx in New York in 1986. It was 8 floors of one ginormous aquarium, big tank, and you had the predators and the prey in the tank, but they're all fed, so they don't eat each other. What is it? Fish are friend, not food. What's that? Finding Nemo. And John says, we used to have a wild weasel get through the stonework and eat the mice that ran around behind the wood linings. We called it Ron. Ron, is it Ron? Very, very, very good. You see, if they can actually eat the things that you would like to be gone, that would be really, really lovely. Sean had a question. This is one for me. About, what is it that attracts me to Italy? I've been to Italy twice before I started really, really coming here. And it was actually meeting old bodies. So I became friends with Marcus and Daniela. And Daniela lives in Rome, and her English wasn't good. It was just nodding and smiling at each other at the beginning. And I determined 8 years ago to take up Italian. So I started on Duolingo, and I speak Italian. And then we just started meeting at each gatherings, and then I was invited to Italy, and I just fell in love with the place. I love the people. The landscape is amazing. Well, there isn't any one landscape. Love the food. I love the vino. I was just thinking, I've been to so many places. I thought, oh, it'd be lovely to have a house here and live here. And then I go, no, this is the place I come to visit. But my roots are in Ireland. That's where I really am. And I love the Irish language, but I also love the Italian language. I find it's full of passion and drama, and I really, really enjoy it. I don't know if that answers the question. So the landscape is amazing. The architecture is amazing. But then I don't know what is Italian. There are so many cultures, dialects, subcultures. And we will be talking about a place we visited a few days ago in a few moments. So it's a very rich country to visit. And I suppose essentially it's my friends here, the Italians I connect with. And I have found visiting different countries that if I have connection with people who live there, who belong to the place, then that deepens and enriches the experience rather than just going as a visitor or a tourist. So I get to see Marcus and Orlando and Daniela's Italy rather than just coming like being the tourist on the bus. And I remember Marcus is a gardener, and he looks after a landscaper and looks after these beautiful gardens and these wonderful Tuscan houses. And I have helped him, by the way, weeding and things. Anyway, one day it was lunchtime and we're on the road, and he turns off this tiny little roadway into this little, would you call it a taverna? Is that a word that you use? This place, they cure their own meats, they made their own cheese, they made their own bread, and they made their own wine. And it was along a pilgrim route. So these pilgrims were coming, stopping for lunch. And it was just very, very simple food. And he brings out a glass of wine or a carafe of wine, and there's the bread and the various meats and the cheese. And it was it's a small off-the-road place. No tourist would have found it.
And he has also the stories. He's telling the stories about his own products and how they got made and where they're coming from, and the story and the history, why they did this kind of thing. And it is also interesting, and it makes your mouth going more free.
Absolutely. So I suppose generally it's like I have a strong connection with Africa, Tanzania. I lived in Lesotho, Kenya, but it's my friendship with people there that really, really does it, rather than coming as the outsider. I am an outsider, and I always will be in those places, but still to have a connection and seeing the country from the eyes in some way of the people who live there. I think that enriches the experience. So speaking of, we went to a beautiful place the other day called Tarquinia. And it was a town on a hill. You can see the sea in the distance. And is it southwestern Tuscany?
Yeah, there's no Tuscany anymore.
Oh, no, okay.
It's just in Lazio, and a few kilometers outside from Tuscany.
And it was founded by the Emperor Tarquinio. And that, I believe, is not there. It's an English name, Tarquin. But actually, you said there are not many Italian Tarquinios.
No, not at all, no.
But what really, really fascinated me was there is an Etruscan necropolis there. And the Etruscans, well, from that is about between 500 and 200 BC. So it's around the era of the Celts. And I'm going to show you. We're going to show you some photographs. But you want to talk about the Etruscans first?
A little bit, I can say. I had just to refresh my memories and what I heard before and what I. So the Etruscans are an indigenous folk. How would you say folk or people, indigenous people of
Yeah.
the area? They're not coming from somewhere and then they settled there, and they came other influences, but they were really from the place. And you talk about the Etruscan culture from the 1200 before Christ up to just after Christ, 100 or 200 years after, because then they got melted in by the Romans. And it is very interesting because they took a lot of things from the Celts. Some say also that they had a good partnership or something with the Celts in the Alps, in particular, and they learned from them to how to make bronze and work the iron and all the different metals, how to mine, to find the metals, and that became also a very big and important business for them, for the Etruscans, to work so all the different metals. And still today, there are old mines founded by the Etruscans in the Colline Metallifere in Tuscany, for example. They are called metal hills, metal hills, Colline Metallifere. Because the Etruscans found first Etruscan found all the different types of metal, also rare metals, and then they had ports, harbors where they brought them in other countries over the Mediterranean Sea, and that was like the base of their economy, the metalworking and the metal finding and selling it. And then it's very interesting is the spirituality also, because it developed independently from the other big cultures, from the Celts, from the Egyptians, from the Greek, and so you can see that they had in the later times there were several influences, but in the beginning they were believing the god as the deities. They were animals, and there was the lightning that was a god itself,
Yes.
and they were interpreting that also, how the lightning was coming down and where it came in, and it was all very important. And they looked into the birds, how they were flying, and and there was signs of was like an oracle for them. And they had the different elements, which were like, for them, the four elements, they were mirrored into the sky. And they divided the sky in 4 quarters, and each quarter had one element. And for them, that was like the mirror, the earth and the sky.
Okay.
And I found that very interesting. And this they redo in lots of other things. They redo it in the funerals. They redo it in animals. They see it in the intestine or in your head. Always divided in 4 quarters and connected with the 4 elements.
And when you say the sky, I mean, is this like a star map? We'll say. So, for example, the upper right quadrant is Earth, for example. do they have particular constellations associated with it, or what did they do?
The stars, I
that-
don't know if they were so important. For sure they were, but I don't know what it was. But they had like two lines crossing, like a cross on the sky,
okay.
and each quarter was representing. It was from north to south and west to
East.
east. Yeah, east. So each quarter was representing one of the elements.
Okay, that's so you're actually where you live. Also, there's
Yeah,
Etruscans
we are
where
here
they-
in a Etruscan area. It was just Etruscan, it's Etruscan border, let's say, because I'm here in the line of the highest Apennine Mountains, just on the side where the Etruscans were. And the Apennine Mountains, there is a long line of the Apennines going through Italy from north to south, and is dividing the country and was always dividing the country. And the Etruscans never went over the Apennines.
okay.
They couldn't do, like, there were other people living, and
Okay.
they were trying sometimes, but they didn't settle on the other side. And so we are here just about 10 kilometers from the border of the Etruria, they call it, no? Etruscan country.
Okay.
And here this place was, or like other places, they were important for because it was on the border.
Okay.
And where we have now here a little church, a little chapel here in Upaki. Now I did the name. And this got built, it is a very old chapel from before 1000. And this got built on an Etruscan temple place. And you can still see outside the church a little bit of the base of the Etruscan temple. And I remember when they restored it in 2000, the church, they found under the pavement, under the floor, they found old Etruscan tombs. But they just put quickly concrete on top to not have any trouble. And because there are so many places here to excavate, wherever you dig, you can find something very interesting. That there's no money, and there's from the church side also no interest to reconstruct pagan sites. And then I got interested after I saw that. I got interested in looking around in this area of the little chapel, and I found other structures behind the chapel. It was like a crest of the hill behind, and I found round places which are definitely artificial. And I found hills of stones which were like carved and worked and marked by the fire. And why I thought, that must have been a tower, maybe, because it was all stones in one place, in a small place, in a big hill. And I read about it, and there's not very much research. But they know that the Etruscans had these watchtowers here in the area, and to defend the area or to tell the people there's anything happening or danger or whatever. Communication also with light they did. And so it is a very old place. And the oldest houses here in the village, they are from 1200. But if the church is like from before 1000, and there was other structures from before, I think there were also some houses here in the area before already. So this is quite an old settlement.
David has a question. Have you seen the old Cyclopean walls made of large polygonal blocks made by the Etruscans?
Yes. There is this is very typical for the Etruscans that they did this carved the stones. They carved every stone to fit in the special place. In walls or in pavements, and it was very, very big stones, blocks, and they built the walls without mortar, without anything in between. They just fitted them perfectly together. And I think it is wonderful. Near Arezzo, you can see, maybe it is the only one in Italy, in the Etruscan amphitheater.
Yeah.
And there the basic walls are Etruscan, still in the Etruscan style, and then on top other cultures afterwards, Romans, and built it higher and repaired it, but in the base is still in the Etruscan, original Etruscan style.
Oh, it's absolutely fascinating. I'm going to share you some images, just photographs taken with my phone, which isn't a great camera. But I just thought it would be really nice to share this. The first is a tree, 2 images of a tree that I was fascinated with. Now, let me go in here. Isn't that what I'm trying to do? No, I want us to go. Yeah, that's what I want to do. I'll just go up here. This is a hammock tree. And if you just look at it, you can see it there. It looks like a tree somehow having been planted in a stump. And there's another view of it. I think it's fascinating, but it's the one tree. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, the hammock tree, it's Robinia, also you call it, no?
Robinia.
Robinia, okay. Robinia pseudo-acacia. Some people, especially the Italians, they call it acacia. But it is not an acacia. It's coming from North America. But it got introduced in Europe a long time ago, I think in the 17th or 18th century, and now is part of the natural flora. And today it has quite some big problems with diseases, and like other trees also. There is for sure also the climate change is coming in, and the worldwide commerce of everything, and spreading illnesses everywhere.
And it's so sad. I mean, we have ash dieback in Ireland, and obviously the old one of Dutch elm disease. Yet I have an elm tree in my garden. It's a young one. Well, I don't know how it's actually been there since I came, so it's at least 30 years old. But because of where it is, it doesn't get to grow any bigger. And I know you've told me that the young trees stay okay, and it's when they get bigger that's when they're more prone to it. And so Gabriella here says Robinia pseudo-acacia, commonly known in its native territory as black locust. Interesting. And Sean says the Freemasons use the acacia as a symbol of immortality of the soul. But what strikes me, what's really interesting about this particular tree, is that you're looking at the trunk and it's split, and to all intents and purposes, it has died. And when we talk about the diseases that are hitting trees, I think this is a beautiful metaphor or a symbol of hope. Here, despite all, this tree has just started all over again. I mean, sometimes you see little shoots coming out from what you think is a dead tree. And just look at this one, standing erect with a beautiful canopy and just, prevailing anyway, in spite of what's going on. And I suppose if we can all be as that tree, that despite all the limitations and the constraints, that if we make a determination to survive anyway, and hopefully, maybe this is how, the planet and the earth and our beings, not everybody will survive, but enough will survive for us to continue.
Yeah, I think there is the hammock tree is a good symbol, and because it has such a great capacity, even if it is dying. And I'm a gardener, and I'm doing gardens, and I have curing trees, and I have to do that a lot now with hammock trees, and I can see how they react. If you prune them because they're ill and have dead branches and nearly dying, then in a just unexpected place, they come out again and have a shoot, which is then like a fresh new tree, like in this one, no? And they can get older and older and do that again and again. And there's another tree which is very similar, is the olive tree. There I have a story, but maybe we see the other picture.
Okay, so
before.
we're going to another tree now. So this is an olive tree, and I don't know how old it is, but it's one of the biggest olive trees I've ever seen, because yours are thin, and most I've seen the plantations are. This is quite a thick trunk.
I think from my experience it must be about 700 or 800 years old, and this they can. I saw one. The oldest I saw was about 3,000 years old, 3,200 in Crete, and was. And but I heard that they can get more than 4,000 in Israel and Palestine, and more than 4,000 years old. And but also they have a capacity to renew, to re-give life. And I have a little story about that. When I came here, they just built a new road to the village. Of course, there wasn't any road before. No, they couldn't arrive with a car. And to sell the houses, the owners, they put themselves together to build it. It was just a track, an earth track, but to arrive there with a car to sell the houses. And so just 2 years before I came, the road got built, and it went also through some olive groves, some old olive groves, and they just pushed them down the hill. And again, 2 years later, after I arrived, I saw a little olive tree coming out of the road.
Wow.
Out of the road. And I thought, it's not possible. There was a branch coming out. I thought somebody stick it in or something. I digged in the middle of the road, and I found a root, an old root of the olive, and I digged it all out. It was really hard work, and planted it in a different place. And now it's a beautiful big tree. But that can tell how amazingly, even after years of sleeping somewhere, they still can grow.
That is wonderful. And before we finish, because we're coming to the end of our time, interesting, David says, I'm just going to remove that one. We had hemlock evergreens that were dying back in 2000 when it was very hot and very dry. Heavy mulching with oak leaves, not shredded wood chips, helped save them. Very resilient. I think that's wonderful, using... I mean, that's what mulch, that's what leaves do when they drop on the ground. Yeah. They will obviously nurture themselves. In this case, it was another species. But I think it's just beautiful how we, how we can recover ourselves, a model for our own, a metaphor for our own resilience, but also recognizing the resilience of nature and honoring that and somehow modeling that for ourselves. Pat mentioned earlier that blackthorn, and I have loads and loads of blackthorn.
Bipolar. Blackthorn.
Blackthorn, yeah.
Is bipolar.
Bipolar?
Bipolar, yes.
How do you mean?
Good for bipolar.
Oh, is it? Okay. But, you can cut it, and it has a root system, that moves, and it doesn't get bested. And it's that ability to persist. Now it can take over, and it can be very greedy and kind of upset its plant brothers and sisters. But it's that, and and bramble do that. That not nettles, they do it as well. But dandelion, that no matter how you mow the dandelions, they will find a way of coming back each year. And I just love that persistence, and we need to be able to do that. It's something around not losing hope in terms of how we live our life or whatever adversity comes to us. Now, I have dealt with adversity. I'm having a good time now, so it's maybe easy for me to speak. So I want to acknowledge that when people are having, as there are other parts of the world, when you think about it, this is why I say this prayer for peace, where it's relentless. And yet, when I'm always in awe of people who have lived and survived relentless adversity and still somehow find that place to come through it. And I think, this is what nature does, and maybe nature can teach us that. And as Druids, being able to do that and not give up and to keep persisting in not spreading our dogma, not trying to control people, but persisting and not just to survive, but also to thrive and find a way around, like the olive, a little sapling, asphalt on the road, and then somehow that plant finds a way up. And then Marcus, did the tree survive?
Yes, it is now a big tree.
Okay, so then
giving lots of olives.
Difficultly, trying to protect the roots, etc. That we can do that, and I think that's just a wonderful teaching from nature that we as Druids can apply to our own lives. Tracy says, I agree. The plant people and the animals can teach us all we need to know. Absolutely. I couldn't. Yes, Jane, we're going to move over to the hearth right now. So thank you for that prompt. We're a little bit over time here. It's been such a joy having you all in your comments. So those of you who can, please come over to the hearth and we'll see you over the next few minutes. And I'm glad this format worked. I didn't know how it would. And it's necessity being the mother of invention. It was just lovely. Howlin' Willie says, that's a great, what do you call your handle, is it? Talk of trees makes me breathe easier in the toxicity. Sorry, Sydney. Thank you, Eimear, Marcus, and everyone. So we will see you all next week on this platform, and then the rest of you see you on the hearth. So in the meantime, I hope you're enjoying October. So obviously, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, in New Zealand and Australia, South Africa, you're enjoying the spring and the hope that all of that brings, while the rest of us are in the dark time of the year. Anyway, I've passed the equinox. I'm happy to be in the dark. So I look forward to seeing you next week. And until then, slán go fóill.
Bye to everybody. Buonasera.
Ciao.